Hello? Hello, my name is Colette, and this is my dragon. Welcome to my lair. This evening I would like to invite you to join me on a fine dining experience of the intellectual variety. I will not be pairing steak and wines for you this evening. I will be pairing literary experiences with sonic experiences, hopefully to your pleasure and enjoyment. I tried to find the most waiter-esque outfit that I could. Hopefully I succeeded, and if not, that's okay too. This evening I have 6 books and I believe around 8 albums that I have paired with those books that I'm going to recommend be listened to alongside these books. I find that many of my favorite experiences in life have been paired with the right music at the right time, and that has elevated those experiences even more. And I was talking to my friend the other day, and we were recommending each other music. And he had started reading a book that I have read before and I'm very much a fan of. It's actually in this lineup. And he was like, give me an album to listen to while reading this book. And that was the most delightful treasure hunt ever. And then he listened to the album while reading the book and said it matched well. And that really did something to me and for me. And now we're here, and I have a whole lineup for you guys, and I'm very excited. And I hope you enjoy. To start, where do I want to start? Okay, I'm going to start with Red Rising by Pierce Brown. I recently finished this trilogy and then immediately started the second trilogy and started Iron Gold and got very sad and needed a break. So I will be finishing that at some point in time. But this trilogy is, I feel like every time I read a good trilogy, I feel like it's the best trilogy. But this is just so damn good. If you like The Hunger Games, if you like Game of Thrones, if you like Star Wars, somehow it's kind of all of those wrapped into one while feeling really unique. Set in a world where humanity has expanded across the galaxy and been split into a class system divided by colors. I think reds are the lowest, golds are the highest. Our protagonist, Darrow, faces a revelation that forces him to make some really hard choices and embark on a really crazy journey. And it's just incredible. It's just incredible. One of the easiest trilogies to read. So many twists and turns. So many amazing characters. So one, I highly recommend this book. Now, to go along with this reading experience, I would like to present Planetarium by Sufjan Stevens. Now, I understand that sometimes listening to music while reading can be distracting, and so I have chosen these albums with intention and care. Planetarium could potentially be a little bit distracting while reading Red Rising, but I think it's worth a shot because obviously the album is called Planetarium. I don't remember how many songs there are, but each song is for a different planet in our solar system. I think there's a song for Halley's Comet as well. There's a song for Earth, Black Hole, Saturn, Jupiter, etc. So already the concept of the album pairs nicely with an intergalactic space story. And it's also one of my top 10 favorite albums of all time. I think it's one of the most brilliant bodies of work there are. And I just think that it would pair so well with Red Rising. But I would recommend it for the middle of the book. I don't think you should start reading Red Rising and listen to Planetarium right away. I think you should wait until about a third of the way through, middle chunk, and I think that is a good point to listen to the album while reading the book. Obviously, when you're reading words are hard, guys. Obviously, when you're reading a book, the music's going to be low. So, put it on a low volume so it's not distracting, but I think it would really just elevate the experience. That is the amuse-bouche, the appetizer, if you will. And I also would like to say that all of these albums I would recommend listening to on their own as well, of course, because they're all brilliant. Now, for our, there's 6 courses here, and I only know appetizer, entree, dessert. So we'll see what we got. I like an analogy though, so I'm going to see if I can work with it. You know what? For your first cocktail of the evening to pair with your appetizer, we have All the Light We Cannot See by Anthony Doerr. This book is brilliant, and I'm probably going to say that about every book that I present because I'm very passionate about the books that I read and the music that I listen to. This book is brilliant. It is more akin to poetry than a classic narrative book. Set in World War II, follows 2 children, one young blind girl in France, one German boy who gets put into the Hitler School for Boys. Very, very insightful, very emotional, again, very poetic, and feels, what's the word I'm thinking of? Mystical is not the right word, but either way, there is a almost mythical and magical element to this book while also being grounded in absolute heartbreaking reality. I believe there was a movie that Netflix made of it a couple years ago, and I watched the trailer and it just didn't capture the tone and essence and look that felt right to me, so I never gave it a watch. But the book is beautifully written and just brilliant. What I would present to pair with All the Light We Cannot See is an album that I'm probably going to butcher the name. I believe it's actually a soundtrack to a movie I've never seen, but it is, again, forgive me, Synecdoche, New York. That is the album title, by John Brion. This album has worked its way onto my radio stations and playlists when I'm listening to instrumental music. It's primarily instrumental. There's a couple, songs with words on there. And this album is just gorgeous. It's haunting and soft and romantic and tragic all at the same time. And I think that I don't think this would be a distracting album to read to. I don't think. It's very soft and gentle, but it hits very deep emotionally. And I think it would just pair really well with the poetic, lilting narrative style of All the Light We Cannot See. That's that. For your entree, we're gonna get a little meaty with it. Jane Eyre. I believe Jane Eyre, A Wrinkle in Time, and Frankenstein have been in rotation for my favorite book for the last 10 years. It's very hard for me to decide. Right now it's Frankenstein, although I have not read Frankenstein recently. I have read this twice. I think that Jane Eyre is one of my favorite pieces of classical literature. I would like to revisit it at some point. I think it's been about 6 or 7 years since I've read it. I love the themes of forgiveness. I love the themes of self-respect. I think Jane Eyre is such a fantastic and unique portrayal of womanhood and of having an inner softness and an inner strength at the same time. I like, again, that it's very grounded, but at the same time there's a mythical, fantastic element to it, and it really impacted me as a young teen reading it. I believe I read it for the first time when I was 12 or 13, maybe 13, 14. Just a really, really beautiful book. And for this pairing, I present again another album title that I'm probably going to butcher. Panaptich. Panaptich? Panaptich? I couldn't tell you. By Ryan Lott. Now, this album sonically has to me almost a science fiction sound to it. Let's make sure we're recording. Okay, we're recording. It has almost a science fiction sound to it in terms of the tempo and the instruments used and the melodies, and it's a little eerie. It's a little uncomfortable almost, while also still being very satisfying. And it's all instrumental as far as I know, from what I can remember. And I just think that there's a hauntingness to Jane Eyre. It's eerie, it's tragic, it's slow, but it's tense. And I really think that the tone and the response to this album matches the way that Jane Eyre feels to read. And so I think it would be a wonderful pairing. And it's quite meaty and intense. Honestly, so are all of these, most of these books. The next two are a little on the lighter side of things. So that, I think that's why they're dessert. Honestly, they should have been the appetizers, but I didn't think this through too much, and maybe this analogy is getting old, but I think it's fun. Okay. Next, we have, so this is the wrong book in the series. The book that I'm recommending is Ingo by Helen Dunmore. I had the whole series. There's about 4 or 5, and I had the first book, which is just Ingo, and I lost it. So this is the second book that I'm using for reference. But honestly, the album pairing that I have would work for either of these, I think. Ingo the series is about these two siblings, brother and sister, who live on some seaside town in a European country. I don't remember which one. And they live with their mother. Their father has gone missing several years earlier. He had gone missing. And they live right by the ocean. The ocean is a huge part of their life. And one day they make a crazy discovery that launches them into a beautiful adventure that yada, yada, yada. Doing these like book summaries is kind of fun. It feels silly, but it's also really entertaining. It's about Selkies. It's a young adult fiction series about Selkies, and I actually really don't want to do mouth sounds on this channel, so I just apologize for anyone who was jarred by that. It's not what we're doing here, folks. Not. It's about Selkies, and I'm a hoe for Selkies, mermaids, ocean life of the fantastical realm. I love this series. It's very lighthearted. I haven't read it since I think I started reading it in junior high, and then I finished the series when I was an adult, and it just hit really nice. Sometimes you just want something light and fresh and not too intense. Just an easy read with stakes that are just high enough to feel invested in and just low enough to not get stressed about. Because it is technically, I think, like a young adult series. Love. love. And the album that I have to pair with this is Titanic Rising by Ways Blood, which has a little bit more of a folksy element. And again, albums with words can sometimes be a little more distracting, but I think just like a low background to support the novel, I think would be really nice. I think Titanic Rising is an album that has a pretty solid through line of sound. Each song is relatively unique, but for the most part they have a very, just a through line of the tone and the general essence of these songs. And I think it kind of makes me feel, I mean, it's called Titanic Rising and there's water in the album cover, but it feels very aquatic to me. The album feels very aquatic to me, especially movies. That song just sounds like I'm underwater. So that's that one. I feel awkward right now, but I think I just feel self-conscious about how into this I am. But 2026 is the year of insanity. I don't give a shit. I'm choosing not to give a shit. Okay, moving on. Another lighthearted, technically children's book. And it doesn't have a cover. A Wrinkle in Time. A Wrinkle in Time. Obviously I bought it old and then I've read it like 2, 3, maybe even 4 times and the cover fell off. So it's just, this is what we're working with. Madeline L'Engle? I don't know how to spell her last name. Obviously a classic. I think I posted on my other channel a video of me reading a chapter of this book, and I think I might do that again because it was just so cozy. And that's one of the things that I love about it. I also really resonate with the main character in a lot of ways. And I just think that it's a really brilliant, simple yet expansive science fiction novel. Sometimes children's books just hit because they, especially classic children's literature, can hit sometimes because things are like, certain things are simpler and other things are more complex. I don't know. It really works for me. And the Disney movie, I think if I was to be a writer-director, A Wrinkle in Time is one of the movies or books that I would want to adapt into a film because it's all there. It's all there. The album that I would like to pair with this is another soundtrack. It is Queen and Slim by Devonte Hines, also known as Blood Orange, but Devonte Hines is his like solo work, apart from the artist of Blood Orange. I have not seen this movie, but the soundtrack is just wonderful. It's kind of similar to the Ryan Law album in that it's mostly instrumental, it's soft, but it also has a slightly... That album to me feels a little bit like yearning, and I think there's a huge element of yearning and longing that is a huge part of A Wrinkle in Time, so I think that would pair very well. And there's some fun, soft sonic elements, unique elements to the album that I think would pair well with like the science fiction world, while also it's science fiction and it feels very fantasy at the same time. And so yeah, I just think that they would pair very nicely together, and I should honestly watch Queen and Slim and also Synecdoche, New York. I have them all right here, which is why I'm looking down, by the way, because otherwise I would have forgotten, because the soundtracks are just so good. And lastly, oh my gosh, guys, we're already at the end. How long have I been talking? 20 minutes? Perfect. Lastly, I don't have this physical book, but this is the book that started it all. This whole idea is Mistborn. When I talk about brilliant books, guys, when I talk about brilliant books, the Mistborn trilogy is so good. I honestly should have a physical copy. I've bought the trilogy twice as gifts for other people because I needed them to read it so bad. I want to read more Brandon Sanderson. That is the only series I've read by him. And I think that he's brilliant, and one of the it's just so good. It's just so good. I don't even know how to describe it. And I don't remember enough about the first book to say what it's about without like potentially spoiling stuff that gets revealed like later on. The main character's name is Vin. It's one of the coolest magic systems that I have ever experienced in a novel. Great characters, great plot. Each book builds on itself to get better and better and better, and it's just one of the best endings in a trilogy. And this is the book that my friend told me he was reading, and I was like, I can't actually believe you're reading that. That's so exciting. And then later he was like, give me an album to listen to. And I actually have 2 for this book. I have my first initial thought, like right off the bat, was Relaxer by Alt J. This album is, you know what, I sent him like a funny, way over dramatic description, and I kind of want to read it because I feel like it was perfect. Okay, perfect. I'm not going to read the actual text because I feel like I'm exposing him somehow, but I was being dramatic, so I used fancy language, okay? Calm while sustaining a slightly dark and eerie tone with husky melodies and cryptic lyrics. I hope you find it to be a good companion to your literary journey. I don't really know what else there is to say about that. I just think that it pairs very, very well with especially the first half of the Mistborn trilogy. The first half of Mistborn, the book Mistborn. And then I also sent him, I don't think he listened to this one yet, All Mirrors by Angel Olsen. This kind of like surprised me that I felt drawn to this album for this book, because it's mostly vocals. You know, Angel Olsen is a very unique folk singer with a very unique style of singing, and this particular album, it feels mystical, it feels curious, and I think and it feels soft, and I think the first half of Mistborn into the second half, I feel like it would just pair really nicely. And I don't really know, it felt more intuitive. I don't really have like much reasoning for it, but I just feel like the vibes would vibe, you know what I mean? So that's all I have for you this evening. That's quite the meal. The kitchen was working really, really fucking hard to put that together for you. Actually, they really weren't. I think that took me about 30 minutes to make these pairings, because it just makes sense. Like, I think any experience that you have, almost any experience that you have, we're not going to say every, but almost every experience that you have, or any experience that you have, it can be elevated by the right music, and it can be completely with the wrong music. So that's what I have for you this evening. Do you have anything you want to add? Yeah, I think that's a really good point, actually. I hadn't thought of that. Okay. Well, I'm going to shut up now. Love you. Bye. That was so fun. Oh my god, I left my headphones on.